Hello again, it's Pete Hollers and I'm a student in Miss Miller's English class at Livingston Academy. For our video assignment, we were asked to consider a motif and then explain this motif in relation to literature we have studied. According to my notes in Google, a motif is any recurring element that has symbolic significance in a story. Through its repetition, a motif can help produce other narrative and literary aspects such as theme or mood. For this assignment, I have chosen to examine the motif of light and darkness. This permeates many of these literary stories that we have studied in class. I will begin with Beowulf and then proceed to the Canterbury Tales of the Wife of Bath's Tale and the Partner's Tale. And then I'll finish it up with Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and Morte d'Arthur. Imagery of light and darkness runs throughout Beowulf and enhances the story in several ways. First, the contrast between darkness and light symbolizes the conflict between good and evil. Sometimes light and darkness clearly hold a religious significance. Heaven and salvation are associated with light, while hell and damnation are linked with the darkness. The motif of light and darkness is also used in Beowulf as a tool of characterization. The basic natures of certain characters are described through images of darkness, death, and evil. Other characters are associated with light, goodness, and order. Images of light and darkness set the mood and describe the atmosphere in the air. In the very first lines of Beowulf, we learn that Grendel is a powerful monster living down in the darkness. The darkness of Grendel's marshy lair is described as a hell, not hell but earth. While Grendel is banished to the dark moors, the Danes in Hrothgar's hall live in a very different environment. Music and song ring through the hall day after day. The poet in the hall sings of how the Almighty made heaven and earth and set the sun and moon to glow across the land and light it. Grendel cannot stand a song that tells the Almighty glowing light because he is a creature of darkness and evil. He approaches the mead hall only when the darkness has dropped. As the epic poet tells us, that shadow of death hunted in the darkness and filled the nights with horror. The good King Hrothgar is associated with images of light in the poem. The poet emphasizes the contrast between light and darkness in the following passage. Though he lived in Heorot, when the night hid him, he never dared touch King Hrothgar's glorious throne, protected by God. God whose love Grendel could not know. Grendel, the creature of darkness, dares not touch Hrothgar's glorious throne. Here, Hrothgar's throne is associated with light through the use of the word glorious. Glory means light or radiance that shines around or out of someone or something. This use of light imagery connects Hrothgar's with God's protection and love. Additionally, the Hrothgar's hall is described as a place of light and safety. Until Grendel begins his murder spree, of course. Likewise, the leitmotif is used to describe the character of Beowulf. When he stands before Hrothgar in his armor, the silvery metal of his mail shirt, Beowulf shines with reflected light. When he tells Hrothgar and the Danes about his success battling giants and sea monsters, he presents himself as a foe of the darkness. They have seen my strength for themselves, have watched me rise from the darkness of war, dripping with my enemy's blood. I drove 5 great giants into the chains, chased all that raced from the earth. I swam in the darkness of night, hunting monsters. Beowulf is strong and courageous enough to dive into the darkness and battle what lives there. Later, when Beowulf battles Grendel's mother, the poet contrasts the dark and spooky lake in which the monster lives with the light that arrives after Beowulf defeats her. Her home is covered in a mist and steams like black clouds. Groves of trees with snake-like roots grow over the lake and help keep it dark. Beowulf enters the eerie place and brings light by defeating the evil. With this leitmotif, the poet makes it clear that Beowulf is a good and courageous warrior. He has overcome evil and brought a heavenly light where there was darkness. I didn't find near as much of the light and dark motif in the Wife of Bath's Tale as in other works, but there are a few references to light and darkness that seems to fit in with the theme of the tale and the character of Wife of Bath herself. Early on in the tale, the Wife of Bath tells how in the days of King Arthur, England was full of fairy folk. However, they seem to have disappeared or run out of England by all the clergy and friars. Speaking of these supposed holy men, the Wife of Bath says, "They search the countryside through field and steam, as thick as motes that speckle a sunbeam, blessing everything they can find, including outhouses, barns, and stables." Comparing these clergymen note to the light itself, but to dust motes that speckle the light, the Wife of Bath tells us she sees through the mask of these clergymen. She's making fun of them. Clearly the Wife of Bath would prefer even folk or Arthur's time. And her story has aspects of romance, including a glade full of fairy ladies and ugly but wise crone who changes into a beautiful wife after she educates her husband. In the Wife of Bath's tale, the knight learns his lesson over a long and hateful honeymoon night. During the long night, he thrashes about and can't stand to look at the old, ugly bride. She schools him in virtue. In the morning, when the curtains are drawn back and the light streams in, he sees her real beauty. So while there is not as much light and dark imagery in this tale, it seems to carry on the story and its themes of real understanding and real beauty. The prologue makes it very clear that the partner himself is the blackest sort of hypocrite. He preaches to the poor people and yokels about greed and avarice, but he is the one cheating them out of their money and showing his own greed by supposedly selling them pardons. So the teller of the tale is a dark figure himself. The partner's tale starts out with 3 riders sitting in a tavern in the morning and seeing a funeral go by. They send out to find out who dies, and they find out that it was an old friend who suddenly last night was slain face up dead drunk again. Here death comes suddenly at night to those who are involved in sin and vice. This use of darkness motive foreshadows what is going to happen later to the 3 friends. The tavern boy goes on to tell the 3 that death is a thief who comes in the night. He refers to the Black Death as one way death is carrying many people off. The 3 drunken revelers make a pledge to kill death. They make a lot of ridiculous oaths, carrying Christ's blessed body to his shed. They meet death, disguised as an old man, and death tells him, "Turn up the crooked way towards the grove." Here death, darkness, and the crooked path through the woods are all connected. The scene is one darkness, and the theme of the story is sin and death. The revelers are all greedy as they will take the treasure under the cover of darkness. The 2 who stay to guard the treasure hatch a plan to murder the 3rd who goes into town for bread and wine, while the 3rd decides to poison the other 2. He tells the man he needs the poison for rats, the vermin that destroy man by night. The partner's tale emphasizes through themes of death and darkness that it is sin that destroys. The tale also refers to a kind of false light. The golden florins glitter and entice the greedy revelers. The partner himself in the last lines is associated with false brightness, gathering in offerings of sterling rings and silver brooches for the pardons he sells. So here in the partner's tale, the images of darkness and false light emphasize the theme of sin, death, and hypocrisy. After Sir Gawain has accepted the Green Knight's challenge and dealt a blow that cuts off the Green Knight's head, Sir Gawain waits almost a year to begin his journey to the Green Chapel to fulfill his promise. The light-dark motive comes into play in this journey. He begins his journey on a bleak and dark November. He travels through cold, dark woods to find the home of the Green Knight. Our selection talks about the wild landscape, high banks towering on either side hemming Sir Gawain in. The skies are not bright, but instead they are scored by scowling peaks. I think this dark imagery suggests that he is confronting danger and death. Sir Gawain doesn't find anything recognizable as a chapel. Instead, he finds a mount. After Sir Gawain has accepted the Green Knight's challenge and dealt a blow that cuts off the Green Knight's head, Sir Gawain waits almost a year before he begins his own journey to the Green Chapel to fulfill his promise. The light-dark motive comes into play on this journey. He begins his journey on a bleak and dark November. He travels through cold and dark woods to find the home of the Green Knight. Our selection talks about the wild landscape, high banks towering on either side hemming Sir Gawain in. The skies are not bright, but instead are scored by scowling peaks. I think this dark imagery suggests that he is confronting danger and death. Sir Gawain doesn't find anything other than a chapel. Instead, he finds a mound with a hole at one end and on either side, hollow all within. This seems like some old cave or a crevice of an old crag that the story says. The chapel seems more like a burial mound, dark and dank. This is a church where things are turned upside down and the devil might sing morning prayers at midnight. The darkness here seems to symbolize confusion and inability to see or understand clearly. It is also associated with evil through the mention of devil and the fiend. Gawain is brave and he will face the darkness. He knows throughout his journey that he is journeying towards danger and what seems his own probable death. Gawain meets the Green Knight at the chapel in the morning light. In the light, the real truth is revealed. Gawain is not completely unfazed by danger. He flinches when the Green Knight deals the first blow. He is also revealed not to have been a courteous guest because he took both kisses and the girdle in which hopes of saving his own skin. After Gawain makes his confession of dishonesty to the Green Knight, the knight says to Gawain, "I hold you polished as a pearl, as pure and as bright as you have lived free of fault since you were first born." So the imagery of light here is brightly polished pearl describes Gawain's essential virtue and goodness after he has made his confession and learned his lesson. The motif of light and darkness reappears in the first lines of Morte d'Arthur. So upon Trinity Sunday at night, King Arthur dreamed a wonderful dream. In this text, darkness holds some sort of mysterious link with the other world. In this dream, Arthur dreams he is wearing the richest cloths of gold. This associates him with light, goodness, and nobility. He also dreams that he falls into a, quote, hideous deep black water, and therein was all matter of serpents and worms and wild beasts, foul and horrible. Quote, and the serpents and beasts overcome him, he cries out as he is awakened. Here darkness is associated with danger, death, evil, and corruption. In Arthur's second dream, he sees Gawain and a bunch of fair ladies. The ladies, through their prayers, have been granted a favor from God to let Gawain's ghost come out of death and warn Arthur. With this warning, Arthur can the next day make a treaty with Mordred to assure his safety and the safety of his knight and forces. So in this instance, light is associated with wisdom and safety. Despite the treaty, one knight gets bitten by a poisonous snake that comes out of the darkness. Once the knight draws his sword to kill the snake, they think the treaty is broken and the horrible battle begins. So here again, the darkness is a place that evil, dangerous things lurk. By the time night falls on the day of the battle, 100,000 people lie dead. After Arthur is wounded and taken from the battlefield to the chapel, he hears cries from a now dark battlefield. He sends his good knight Lucan to see what the noise is on the battlefield. Lucan goes and by the moonlight finds many badly wounded. The pillagers and robbers come by darkness to kill and plunder the valuables from the dead and dying. Again, darkness is associated with evil. Here, murder of the helpless and the theft. When Sir Bedivere fails to throw the sword Excalibur into the water, he hides the sword in the darkness under a tree. In the same way, Bedivere tries to hide his dark sin of greed and disobedience from Arthur, but Arthur sees through the lies. So hiding the sword in the darkness is associated with evil and betrayal. These ladies with black hoods come onto the barge and take Arthur away. The black hoods are associated with mourning and death, but also with mystery. Who are these mysterious ladies? Where did they come from? Where are they taking Bedivere at Arthur's departure weeps and wails and then takes to the forest. Here again the dark night in the forest seems to symbolize death and mourning. But in the morning Bedivere sees a little chapel and a hermitage. He finds there the hermit who used to be the Bishop Canterbury. So with the light, Bedivere comes out of the dark and dangerous forest into a church, a safer, more wholesome place. The last image of darkness I found in Morte d'Arthur is a mysterious grave. The hermit tells Bedivere how the ladies brought a dead body at midnight and asks the hermit to intern the corpse. The ladies offered 1,000 tapers of candles and 1,000 gold coins. So they come out of the darkness and offer the light so that prayers can be said in the future for Arthur's soul. The light imagery remains relevant in the modern work of Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. It emphasizes the theme and reveals the character of Gatsby. I could think of a few examples of the light motif in this one. Near the beginning, the Great Gatsby, the narrator, Nick, sees Gatsby gazing and reaching his arms out towards a green light far away. This light seems to symbolize Gatsby's ability to move through a dark world with a bright spark of hope that leads him forward. The light is small and far away and seems unattainable. When Gatsby finally meets Daisy again, he achieves what he has been dreaming and working for a long time. Then the green light symbolizing Gatsby's dream seems to vanish. The narrator says, possibly it had occurred to him that the colossal significance that the light had now vanished forever. Now it was green light on a dot. His count of enchanted objects had been diminished by one. So as soon as he realizes his dream of seeing Daisy again, the dream becomes less exciting and compelling. This may suggest that dreams that are not attainable are stronger. There's something hollow once you get what you want, and at the end of Gatsby there is a famous quotation about the green light. Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgiastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms farther. The green light is used to symbolize the hope spurs on us towards the future. It suggests that though we may not reach the goal because it is always receding, it is the hope of achieving it that propels us forward through life.